Hey guys, welcome back. In today's fun video, I would love to make a classic character Slimer from Ghostbusters. Now, I did a few minutes of research. I didn't really do too much research, but I found a couple things. So one, I found a really cool reference of a toy that you can get on Amazon. And let me actually show you the toy. This is what it looks like, and you can just go on Amazon and type in Slimer trap, and you will see this, right? And this toy has really cool, clean references that we could use. So I actually just screenshotted them into my PureRef, and I think I'm going to use these to move forward. And before I do, I want to point out one thing that I noticed. In the original Ghostbusters film, right, the character has 4 fingers. And in the 2016 remake, the character has 3 fingers. So I guess we just have to decide if we want to go for 3 or 4. And honestly, 4 seems a little too realistic. If I just look at this arm by itself, it almost looks like a real arm of a real person, right? And then it was kind of added to this awesome looking shape. But this here looks a little more like a creature, and so for that reason I think I'm gonna go with the 2016 version, but use this one, kind of the original, as a reference. So I invite you to do this with me, and you are welcome to just simply take a screenshot of my screen here, and you can just use the same reference as well. So let's start with the arm, because that's probably somewhat the most, I don't want to say complex, but it's definitely something that maybe would make a good starting point to make kind of a creature hand, somewhat quickly, right? So how do we do that? Well, to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my light box. Let's go to our mannequin folder, and in here there's something called mannequin hand. So let's double click on that and say no. And once again, I don't want to do 5 fingers. I want to do 4. So what I need to do is I need to delete. Let's delete this. Well, I'm looking at the reference actually. I like the pinky. And, we can decide which finger we want to delete. I'm thinking index is this. Got middle finger and the pinky. Let's just delete this guy right here. So how do we delete this from the mannequin hand, right? What we could do is we can go to draw, and we can hover over a sphere, and holding down the Alt key, I can just click, and let me click again, and I'll click again, and just keep clicking on all these different joints until they disappear. And let me just delete this joint as well. Okay, so now I know I still kind of see them. Essentially, in some strange way, they're almost been hidden. But let's just ignore this. And honestly, if someone knows how to delete the actual joints, let me know. But I'm just going to ignore this. And if I go to Adaptive Skin and do a preview, I can see that that's actually not part of the mesh. And this is the only thing I care about. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's kind of figure out what kind of gesture, hand gesture we want for our character, right? So obviously, one of the things I'm going to say right away is that we need to redistribute our fingers a little better, right? So let's go to move, and let's just move this joint over so it's a little more even. And looking at the reference, I kind of like the thumb. Maybe I can make it, let's see, if I click on this, right, the joint shows up, and then maybe what I could do is I can just make it just a little more dramatic, right? So maybe let's click on this and just move this over a little more, and maybe fold this guy in. All right, so that's gonna be my thumb. So it's a little more kind of scary, like he's making, he's trying to scare you. I like everything else. I see that the pinky is really bent. I'm not really using this as a reference, but if we wanted to, we could make it a little more dramatic as well. Just a little, just why not, right? We have all the wiring for it, so might as well play around. Let's click on this and just do something like that. And I like this hand. I think that's great. So this is going to be the base mesh for my hand, right? So I'm gonna go to make adaptive skin. Now again, we can do a preview, and if you want to change the density, I don't really care about that. I just need kind of a base, you know, clay blob, something to start with, like a base mesh. So I'm gonna say make adaptive, and for anyone who is new, understand this. When you click on it, make adaptive, you can see a skin hand was added to my tools, right? So now if I click on that, you will also see that this is an actual mesh. This is not, it's no longer a Z-sphere, so we can't edit the joints anymore or anything like that. But now we can use this to actually start sculpting. So one of the things I can do right away is I can, we can inflate this just a little, and inflating it a little more will help us get rid of some of these, you know, connections, right? And let's go ahead and change this to 128. I would like to dial this down so I can smooth it a little faster. Do Control and drag to re-dynamesh, and now you can see the resolution is super low, right? And if you don't, you know, we don't really need all these different polygroups, so we can do, we can just do auto groups, or if you do Control W, you can change it into one group. But anyways, let's now, since it's low res, right, we can hold on the Shift key, and if I hold down my Shift key, I can see my intensity set to 40. I guess I'll leave it at like 70. And let me just go through and just smooth out some of this. Essentially, I want to get rid of anything that is like this, right? So you have these rings connections. We don't want that, because the creature's hand, we want to sculpt it into more of a kind of a scary monster hand, right? So we don't want these. So let's go ahead and get rid of all of this. And I'm still doing this with my mouse. Let me actually switch to my tablet. Maybe that would be a little more efficient. Let's just smooth this out real quick. All right, very cool. So now we have this really awesome looking base to start with, right? And let's just sculpting this a little more. So I'm gonna grab my move, and what I would like to do is just start kind of getting this, making it look a little more interesting, right? So we know that this part here is gonna be a little skinnier. And if we wanted to, we could, I guess, use something like this as our reference. Just essentially just going for like a scary creature hand. We don't really need to follow all the anatomy, right? We don't need to add a little bone here or anything like that. You can obviously look at your own arm for references, but I'm just looking for something scary and stylized. All right, so I could also smooth out some of this. And voila, I think this is already starting to look really cool. Now, I definitely want to push this down, right? How do I extend this down? Well, I can jump out of perspective mode, make sure it's nice and straight. I can also hold down Control, and I can mask all of this. Then I can click Control and tap on my mesh a few times so it's nice and soft. Do Control and click to reverse the mask. And we can tap even more to smooth this as well. And now let's just grab our move. And if we want to change the pivot, obviously you just unlock this thing, put it somewhere down here, lock this back up, and let's just pull this down. And I am looking to have a longer arm and just give me enough to play with, right? So all of this is going to go inside his body, so it doesn't really matter, but I guess something like this makes sense. And now let's go ahead and go to draw, Control and drag to get rid of the mask, Control and drag again to re-dynamesh. And now let's just maybe sculpt this just a little more, right? If we wanted to, you know, add a little elbow, we could do that too, right? Maybe we can create a little bit of a bend, right? To do that, what I'm going to do is let's just create like a bend right here. So let's do this. Let's flip this over, grab something like the move, and then let's put our pivot right here. And I'm going to lock this up and just bend this just a little bit, right? So now this arm is going to, it's actually, now this is his left hand, right? So clearly this is bending the wrong way. I'm gonna undo this. I need to go this way. Something like that is what I need, right? That makes more sense. And now let's go ahead and get rid of our mask. And if we wanted to, we can sculpt this just a little more. Let's grab our Damien standard, maybe create like a little crease here. You can press 1 to make it stronger, redynamesh, smooth this out. Right here I can hold on the Alt key and just add like a little sharper elbow, right? Can do that. And let's just do a little more touch-ups. We'll do something like this. And so essentially it's getting kind of larger here, right? And then it's getting thinner at the elbow, and then it's really thin here. And then we can give them kind of nice, strong, stylized forearms. So it starts to expand out again, right? But at the same time, I want to make sure I continue kind of giving him, you know, somewhat skinny arms. And be careful not to make the surface too uneven or too blobby. I guess he's a Slimer, so it doesn't really matter, but let's just do something like that. Okay, and I can add a little movement here. You can see there's like a little curve. Okay, and we can do more and more on this as well, but before we do more, let's just keep let's build the rest of it. Right, I don't want to make this super detailed yet. I want to make sure that it kind of fits well with the rest of it, right? So for the body, let's go ahead and zoom out. Let's go into this mode now. All right, so now for this, let's think about this. It looks like we have a sphere, right? And then we have the head, and the head is also sort of a sphere. So essentially, I'm seeing the best way to do this is probably just creating a couple spheres, right? So let's insert a sphere, okay? And I'm still not in perspective mode. If I wanted to, I can keep an eye on this. Maybe that's important. Let's hide this for a second. And let's make sure our arm is actually facing the correct way, right? So I'm going to unlock this, reset this, lock this back up, hold on the Shift key. Let me just rotate this. Something like that I actually like. It's angled a little bit, that's fine. Let's unhide this, and now if I select this, I can put this into position. And for now, I'm only focusing on the belly and kind of the shoulders, right? So for that reason, let's just make it kind of large. And, you know, obviously you see the shape here. We don't really need to sculpt that yet. Let's just kind of find his shoulders. So the shoulders are probably gonna be, all right, very cool. Let's go ahead and turn the floor on so we can see what's going on here. Perspective mode on. So I'm not sure what is going on your end, but on my end, this is not centered, right? So how do I center this? So to center this, it's very simple. All you need to do is go to geometry and go to position. And in here, let's find the X position, and we can see that it's not 0. So I'm going to select this, press 0 and press enter. And that's going to find the center of my world, right? And I need to make sure that I'm not going to touch the Y, the Z and X is the only thing I'm interested in. And let's do the same thing for the arm. And honestly, for the arm, I want to manually move this, right? I just need the sphere to be centered. So I'm going to grab my move, and let's go ahead and just simply, let's reset our rotation and just put this back into position. So I have something like this. And you know what? I can actually change this as well to be a little more angled. So I kind of like this. I think that makes sense. Of course, move it into position, and you know, you can rotate it as you wish, but I think something like that makes sense initially. All right. So now what I could do is I can go to, let's go ahead and mirror this and do a mirror and weld. So now we have 2 of them, and we can work in symmetry on both as we are sculpting this, right? So let's go ahead and go into our sphere. Let's go ahead and turn it into Dynamesh, okay? And we can polish this if we want. So it's low 128 Dynamesh, right? And let's decide if we want to start merging this together or not yet. I think I'm gonna wait a second. Let's just kind of first work on the very basic big shape. This is not centered. Okay, that's a problem. So let me reset my, actually reset my pivot. Let's do control and drag. Put this on the bottom or on the back, right? Make it a little smaller. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it and do control again and do this for the belly. All right, very cool. So now we have this. And the other thing we can start thinking about is the head, right? So again, holding down control key, let me just move this into position, maybe make it just a little bit smaller and do something like that. Okay. I need some serious mass for the neck. I'm gonna hold on control key and give myself a little more, and I can actually scale this as well. All right, so now I have something along these lines, and that is pretty much perfect as far as the base mesh goes. Now we can start sculpting, right? And let's do control and drag to get rid of mask. Do control and drag again to infuse them together. You can see that they're all kind of blobbed together into one, right? And let's do a polish. Okay. And I'm going to switch to draw, turn my symmetry on by pressing X, and let me just really smooth this out a lot. I can start sculpting this a little closer to the reference, right? And I guess at this point, you know, if we start creating geometry for the shoulders and all this, all these creases, let's just go ahead and turn everything into one. So I'm going to click on this arms layer and just simply merge it down, okay? And now I'll do control and drag to infuse this together and just start kind of seeing this as one blob of clay, okay? Amazing. Next, let's start sculpting this a little more and smooth this out even more. And what I would like to do is I'm gonna grab my clay buildup. I'm going to use this soft alpha, which is just alpha 1. Active symmetry is on. And let's just start kind of very slowly building some of this mass here, right, that we're seeing. So I'll give him nice cheeks. Now for the mouth, initially, I know he has a cavity, but to sculpt this, let's carry over the mass and just the volume and completely ignore the mouth. So almost like seal this up in your mind, and then we'll kind of drill into it to make it. But at first I just want the everything without the mouth, right? So the cavity of the mouth. So just literally just doing something like this. So, and you have these amazing looking rolls, I guess fat rolls, right? We want all of this. This is epic, so we need this. We need all of this stuff. And just using clay buildup, let's go around and start building some of these into our character. And they are going all the way down here, so I'm going to do the same thing. Just go, you can change the scale here. Maybe this one down here could be a little bit larger, so they're not exactly the same, you know, size, right? And you know, I'm using this as a reference, but it's just a fun exercise, so don't worry about making it exactly the same. It's not like we're making the same exact character for you know, anything but just pure fun. So if you want to do a little creative freedom, of course you can, right? And let's just maybe start getting rid of some of these here. So I can just very gradually do something like that. And you can see the volume is kind of going out. Right now I'm kind of sculpting it down. but there's definitely a lot of creases on the sides as well. So you want to maintain this, very important, right? All of these shapes here. We can redynamesh. And this character is a lot of fun to sculpt. Now, once again, for the mouth, I'm just going to create kind of almost like a inflated section here, knowing that we're going to cut into this, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's think about this lip, right? So we have the lip right here. So this is going to be the mouth here. Then there's going to be the lip right here. Okay. And then you have kind of a curve, right? So a curve up, and then you have a little nose. So the nose is going to be holding on the Alt key. We can also push in if we wanted to push in any of this. And we can make really dramatic, ugly changes, redynamesh, and then just build this back up if we wanted to. So a lot of freedom, right? So don't, you know, don't get stuck on the fact that you have something there. And it's easier sometimes to build up than go down. So a lot of times, right now, all I need to do, I'm trying to create this curve right here. This really nice angle, right? So I'm kind of trying to doing the same thing. Let's go on the side and let's just grab our move brush. And let's just start kind of doing something similar. And you know what? I would like to actually see his head. All right, so let's pull this up a little more. Redynamesh, smooth this out. All right, now let's maybe start adding some detail. So I'm gonna grab my clay buildup again, and let's think about the nose. So this is gonna be the mouth right here. Then you have the big lip. And let me go back here again. So the lip is really huge, right? So I'm gonna make the nose kind of high up. So like somewhere in, I think in here, makes sense. Let's maybe add a little, at first we'll just do like a little, we'll just raise the surface, right? And we can smooth this out. And let's just start creating kind of the shape of the nose, which is kind of very round, almost like a potato, right? So it's very round. And I think the trick here is just to go slow. Don't rush with the shapes, because they need to proportionally kind of make sense, right? So he has like a little nose, but it's very specific, it's very round, right? And if we wanted to, we can create little nostrils here. Okay, just again, slowly, right? And let's just maybe emphasize this a little more and start building this up. And his nose is kind of pointing up, which is kind of cute. All right. Very cool. And my guy right now is totally kind of looking up. So in my case, I think I'm actually going to rotate him. So let me change the rotation of this. Be a little more like this, I think. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. And let me reset this just to make sure it's in the center. All right. And we can turn our perspective back on so we can, as we're model, we can make sure we maintain. And I like my arms actually forward, so he's kind of almost like jumping forward. Here, he kind of looks like, oh, I'm giving up. Here, he's in the process of scaring you. So I actually like this even better. I think that's cool. Let me fix some of this here. So I'm gonna grab my build up and let's just clean this up a little more. And you know what? I need to make sure my active symmetry is on. And let me just blend this in a little more. I do want to make sure that I have this break there, right? But it's a little too strong right now. And let's think about the cheeks, right? So for the cheeks, he has these huge, amazing, large cheeks. So let's look at the nose, and then let's look at the position of the cheeks in comparison to the lip, right? So I'm not drawing the mouth yet, but what I could do is, just to help me out, let me put down where I think the top lip is going to end. So somewhere here. And, you know, all of this here is going to be the mouth, right? Okay. And what we want to do is we want to kind of think about the placement of the cheeks. And the cheeks are right here. So they're right below the nose, right? And they kind of create this really nice crease going up. So the mouth, you know, if we start playing this, the mouth is kind of, he's almost like essentially smiling, right? And let's just start kind of doing the same thing, create like a smile first. And now this is going to help us place the cheeks down, right? So I'm going to grab my clay buildup and just start creating kind of this volume coming down from the nose. And we can make a little, hold on the Alt key, I can indent where the eyes are going to be. So somewhere around here. We want to make sure the spacing of the eyes is kind of correct. So you want to make sure it's not too far out. You don't want it over here. The eyes are, if you look at the reference, they're somewhat close, right? So maybe initially we can make this kind of larger. And let's start kind of building the brows, right? So he's going to have very definitive, you can see how strong those brows are. And they're not very clean, right? It's more like a creature kind of thing. So we can really add some volume here. Dynamesh. All right. And now what I would like to do is I want to really start building this, because this is a really big part of his look. And you can see the cheeks are going all the way back, right? So pay attention to that. It's going to go all the way back, essentially to the back of his head. So all of this here is going all the way back here, like this, right? So this is kind of going up, and then this is going to go all the way back. And then right here in the back, it's going to start curling down. So all of this here is very important. And now it's going to come down to kind of to meet the bottom, right? Kind of the bottom flap here. So like, let's choose one. I guess I'm going to go with this one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of turning it to meet the back here. So like this, right? So all of this is kind of connected. So like it flows. Okay. So let's do something like that. And again, go all the way down. And at this point, let's go ahead and turn on our project button to maintain our shapes as we re-dynameshing it, but I'm still going to keep it in 128 mode until we start adding actual specific details. Right now I'm still working on sort of the large shapes. So project will help us keep this in position as close as possible and not ruin our hands as well, or arms. So I'm going to control and drag, and you can see that it redynameshed it, but it didn't mess it up too much, right? So what I'm gonna do now is let's just start thinking about what's going on here. So we have this big one right there, and then we have a second one, a smaller one, coming from the cheek right here, and it's kind of going down here, right? Now this second one is thinner, so keep that in mind. So this one is thicker. And you know, again, doesn't need to be precise, but I am following this reference here. And then the second one is going to meet into the next roll, right? So if this roll is the back, this is going to be our front right here, right? We can also grab Damien Standard and we can really push this in a little more to help us visualize the break here. And I'm not really concerned about quality yet, because we're just kind of doing still sort of base mesh, right? But I do want to make sure these are really strong here. All right. And actually that's not looking right, so I'm gonna wait with all of this area here. Let's just continue with the mouth, right? I'm gonna go back to clay buildup, and let's do the next one down. Just gonna be like this, this third one, right? Still kind of building the cheeks a little, sort of. I'm going to redynamesh to get rid of any kind of strangeness there. But essentially, it's almost like a triple. That's what I'm seeing here. 1, 2, 3, and this is going to be right there is the cheek, and then it starts to meet the end of his mouth, right? So right in here, you have another one, but then this is where the mouth kind of goes back, right in here. And then this guy here is going to be this one. All right, very cool, right? I think that the next thing we should do is, let me just build this up just a little more. And at this point, one thing I want to pay attention to is the fact that this line right here is very sharp. So, and this is very round, right? So let's build this up a little. So this right here is round. And don't worry about the lip yet. We can just make sure that this is round. And this is very puffy. Okay, and then what we could do is we can also make sure that this shape, you can see how it's flowing underneath. So make sure we do the same thing. It's kind of flowing underneath. All right. And if we want to create this placeholder line in there, we can just, let's do even inflate. And I have add on, so I have to hold on the Alt key and I can just press this in. Okay, that's going to be somewhat a placeholder for now until we decide to sculpt this a little more. But we're starting to kind of lay down the details, right? All right, looking at this so far, let's think about this. Now the nose seems too big here, so I'm gonna start moving things around. I can move this up. Maybe make it a little smaller. Okay. I think that's about right. Let's go ahead and think about the fact that we need to punch through this volume here, right? So what would be the easiest way to do this? Now, there's many different techniques we can use. One of the easiest ones would be just holding down the, you know, grabbing like the standard brush. And we could just mask this out by holding down the Control key. What you want to do is you want to decide what part you want to press in, which is going to be all of this. And now if you do Control and tap, that's going to mask everything except the piece that we want to push in, right? And now what we can do is we can just simply use the move brush, make it super large, and just push this in, right? And we can even create some kind of a shape there as well. Make this brush a little smaller and just start creating like a little indentation for the mouth, right? So maybe, you know, like an actual mouth is going to have a little cavity there, and it's going to have like these, not rings, but there's going to be, you know, inflate is another awesome one. Holding down the Alt key, because I'm an add, I can just do something like this, and this is actually even better. As I'm doing this, it's creating these kind of side rings, which is really cool. And I really want to push this far, right? Something like that is perfect. And now, now we have a cavity for the mouth. So we'll do Control and drag, and we'll do Control and drag to redynamesh. And let's just go in and smooth all this out, right? Because we are definitely not happy with the all of this here. We want to clean this up. All right, now before we start putting down the teeth, right, I think we could do a little better job sculpting the actual mouth, right? So let's just grab something. We can do move, or even inflate works as well, and just continue kind of pushing. You know, you can hold on the Alt key or switch it to sub, but maybe make this not very intense so it's not so aggressive. And let's just kind of start pushing all of this in and give us some room for, you know, you could see there's a tongue in there, and maybe our tongue can actually be sticking out because he's kind of being silly. He's trying to scare you. And he's not a scary ghost, he's kind of more of a silly guy. All right, so let's push all of this in, redynamesh, smooth this out, and give us a little space there. For the roof of the mouth, you guys can look up references, but I'm just gonna simply push this in and just make it somewhat uneven on purpose, just so it looks kind of organic, right? And if you wanted to, you could even grab something like, you know, if you have a fold brush, or you can use a standard brush, and you can just create, let me redynamesh this. You can kind of create almost like a little movement here, right? So you have something like that. Because if he opens his mouth really wide, you're gonna have kind of these, the skin is gonna pool, right? So like that. I think that's cool. And we can even do a little more here as well. Just, it's gonna be underneath the tongue, but just create something, right? All right, and even up there too. Just a little movement. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and maybe place our tongue in, or let's maybe spend a few more minutes on these lips that he's got going on, right? So for that, I'm just gonna grab my build up, and Now I'm still in 128, right? Because I'm still not really dialing in the detail yet, like the creases and the folds. I'm still kind of building the large shapes. So we can decide if we think the lips are going to require more resolution. Maybe. I do want to have this. You can see there's like a, it's almost, the top of the lip is almost like in the shape of a letter M, right? So it's gonna come from down here and then just kind of come down. And yeah, I don't have enough res here, so I'm gonna switch it to, let's go to 256, Redynamesh. And now what I could do is, let me grab something like Damien Standard, and you can see there's a really sharp edge on the lip. Let's maybe add the same. And for that, we need to hold on the Alt key, and let's just do something like that. Okay. I think that works, and this is very clean, but I'm not ready to do any of that yet. Let's just stay here for now. And then of course, if you think some of this needs to be tweaked on your end, next, let's start building the let's add the tongue in, right? So for the tongue, I'm just going to simply insert a sphere, and let's just simply go on the side, jump out of perspective. We can turn on transparency mode, put it into position, scale it. Let's go ahead and maybe flatten it a little more, and let's decide if we want our tongue kind of sticking out a little bit. I think we do, right? Maybe he's yelling and trying to scare someone, and that would be cool. We can make it longer, and we can bend this as well, right? So maybe it's coming from like the back of his throat, like this. And then let's create a little bend, but let's make sure that it's not too wide. So I'm going to do something like this. Let's go into settings, bend. Let's give ourselves a little resolution. I'm just going to do 3 dots. And now we can just maybe bring this one down and maybe this one up, right? So we'll do something dramatic, like he's yelling at us, right? All right, once we are happy, let's click on the gear and just say accept. And now we have this mesh to play with. We can jump out of the transparency, right? Or solo mode. And let's definitely turn into Dynamesh so we can sculpt it a little more, right? I would like to grab my inflate, turn my X symmetry on, and you do want to create kind of a double thing going on here. So using the inflate with kind of a large brush and very little intensity, I can just kind of start inflating both sides. And you can see what it's doing. It's creating like this indentation in the middle, creating to make it look more like a tongue. We can also solo this if we want, but we can just really just come in here and make an illusion of a tongue, right? Redynamesh this. And we can maybe even fluff up the end. We don't want it too sharp, right? We want to kind of make it somewhat round. And I think even something like this totally works. Okay, nice and simple. Jump out of the soul, let's take a look. So that was pretty simple. Let's go into perspective mode, and then of course, if we think this is too, you can adjust your size and decide what makes kind of makes sense. But I'm gonna go, I think, with something like this. And right now, I do like the position of the tongue, but I don't like where it's coming. I'm gonna use move infinite, and I am going to make it transparent. Let me just do this again. Put it all the way in the back and do something like that. I want this curve, right? Yeah, all right, that's cool. Very nice. Now we have something like this, right? Next, we definitely gonna need the teeth. Let's go ahead and add the teeth in, and then we'll do the eyes and add more creases and folds, right? All right, so to add the teeth, let's maybe give us, you know, some kind of gum in there as well, right? Because the teeth are kind of, you know, they're inset in something, right? So how do we create gum that is custom to the shape of our mesh? Well, we can just simply use Control key, and I do need symmetry on. Let's just simply do something like that, right? We'll create a mask that is gonna go all the way around, something like that. Back here, we'll have our teeth go all the way back here. And we can do the same thing for the top. I'm just gonna simply do, at the same time, just do Control and just mask out a portion for the gum there as well. If you want to clean something up, just do Control and Alt and just clean up, right? I just want the top gum and the bottom, and that would be perfect. So how do we extract that mesh? We just go to Subtool and do Extract, and let's just simply do Extract, and that's going to give us a little preview, right? And that's pretty much perfect. So I'm just going to say Accept. A new layer is created. I can do Control and drag and take a look. If I want to turn this into something more round and blobby, let's just turn it into Dynamesh, and that will just completely kill all the edges. And then we can do Polish. Okay. And holding down the Shift key, we can really smooth this a lot. So it's just something like a soft petting, right? And that would make a perfect gum. We can make sure that it's working with our tongue. And now we just need a few teeth, right? And I think the teeth could be something, and you know what? Make sure you save your tool. All right, and then let's insert a something like a box, and that's gonna be one of our, you know, one of our teeth, right? So I'm gonna make it somewhat smaller. Let's bring it in front so we can see it a little better. Shape it into a tooth or a tooth-like shape. And I think that works, right? And let's think about how many teeth we want. So either way, let's start from like these front two, right? So I'm gonna put it, maybe make it a little thicker, put it into position. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that it doesn't go inside the tongue. And I also want to make sure that it's inside the gum, right? So that is what I'm mostly interested in. And you know what? I can always adjust the tongue because I think the teeth are super important. So let's actually hide the tongue for a minute because we don't want to have like super short teeth just because we have the tongue out. I think it's the teeth are super important with this character, right? So scale is going to be huge. Let's go ahead and move this guy actually aside, and that's going to be this guy here. Okay, and I think I almost like the position of this. We can decide if we want to maybe angle it a little more. Okay, that's pretty great. And I think we could mirror the left. So let's just create, you know, the only one side, right? The right side. And to break this tooth up so just it's not a perfect box, right? I can just turn this into Dynamesh, but this time I think I'm gonna do 256 because this is so small, and do Dynamesh. And what we could do is let's go ahead and solo it, grab our trim dynamic, and let's just trim this a little. I want to get rid of these sharp, super sharp edges. And as you're doing it, you can always re-Dynamesh it and just keep doing both, right? Just do a little bit and then re-Dynamesh. Just mess this up a little. Okay. And redynamesh, and I think that's pretty good. That should read pretty well from far away, right? It should read like a tooth. And you can see it's also tapered a little bit on the bottom. So we can always do the same thing. We can just maybe do something like this. Right? Let's jump out of solo and take a look. I think that works pretty well. It feels to me a little like this is still too boxy, too perfect. Has to be a little more dynamic and playful. All right. Now let me just go ahead and add the next one to the right of it, and then you can see the K9 sharp tooth, right? So you have the sharp tooth here, and we can go from there. So to do this, I'm going to grab my move and hold on the control key and just move this aside, and definitely make it a little smaller. And let's just adjust the rotation and position. And also we can make sure that it's somewhat close to this guy, right? So something like that. You can see there's not too much space there. Okay, so I'm happy with this. Let's do this sharp K9 tooth, I think it's called. So let's do control, and we'll drag out another one. Maybe rotate it a little more. And now to shape it, we could just something as simple as do control and shift, jump into our quick pick and just do a knife curve, right? And just as long as you angle this somewhat sharp so it's flat facing the camera, you can just do control shift and just simply create a kind of make a sharp tooth. Just cut this, and let's go ahead and hold on the space bar and cut maybe this. All right, and if we want to sculpt this or redynamesh it, we can always for 1 second split this to unmasked, right? So it's by itself. We can redynamesh it, we can smooth this, we can you know, maybe sculpt this a little more. And you know, we can decide if we want to do more or if we're happy with this. Depends how detailed you want to get. But there is, I don't really have more room. There is another tooth back there. But if I you can take more time and figure out if you want to do more. But let's say I want to merge these down now, right? I'll go ahead and merge them all together. And what I could do next is obviously flip this over. So let's do a mirror, and let's do mirror and weld. And now we have these on both sides, right? And if we don't want to keep them exactly the same, we can always, you know, move them around a little bit. Now, here's the thing. Here's the trick. If you turn this on, you can see all of these are same polygroups. But if we do auto groups and then grab the move brush and turn on mask by polygroups, which is in brush auto masking, this slider. Now, this will allow us to move each tooth individually. So maybe, you know, you want to do this one a little shorter, this one a little longer, just mess them up a little more. We could do that so they don't look exactly mirrored. And sometimes that's important, right? So it doesn't look too cheap, like you just simply maybe move this aside a little more. So you can see how it's just breaking the symmetry. Okay. Let's say I like this. Let me do a quick preview. I think that's pretty good. We can of course spend more time on this, but I'm pretty happy with this. Let's go ahead and add some bottom ones as well, and maybe do a little preview with the tongue. Now you can clearly see we're gonna have to adjust the tongue, right? But that's fine. That's gonna be very easy to do. So for the bottom teeth, you know, they are slightly different shape, and you have like these molars on the back usually. It's hard to see, but those back there are a little more square. So I can always grab this shape, and let me move this back actually. So something like that is good. And now let's just drop in some teeth. Let's just insert another box. And this is going to be kind of our back molars. Let's just put like 3 on each side, and then we'll do front teeth. Just kind of a quick mouth. So for these, they're literally almost like boxes, but maybe just a little bit longer, like this, right? And if you want to mess up the corners, the fastest way, I'm just going to turn it into Dynamesh. And if I want to polish it a little, I could do that. And you can see how it's kind of getting rid of that sharpness. And then to make it to feel a little more like a molar, I can just even inflate and just holding down the Alt key. Let me just press this in a little bit. So there's like a little indentation here, right? So that is pretty much perfect, I think. So I'm gonna go with this. Let's go ahead and put it into position and rotate it. All right, so that gives me kind of the bottom row, and now all I need is a few in front for kind of the small front teeth, right? So to do that, same, let's just insert another box. All right, so I can spend more time on the teeth, but the more time you spend, obviously, the nicer they will look. But let's say I am happy with this. Now let's go ahead and adjust our tongue, right? So I'm gonna turn the tongue back on. And what I need to do is, let's do Alt and select it, grab our move, or I'm sorry, grab the actual move brush, right? All right, so next, I think I'm ready for my eyes, right? So let's go ahead and add the eyes in. For the eyes, I'm going to simply insert a sphere, and let's just get into, put it in position, make it a little smaller. I think something like that is pretty much perfect. All right, let's say I'm happy with this. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this over to the other side, but first, if I wanted to, I could do 256, re-Dynamesh, and maybe, you know, let's create that effect of a kind of a sculpting pupil, just for the sake of holding this expression a little better. I'm gonna go to standard, do drag, rectangular, and let's do 14. And let me just drop down a, let's do a sub. Turn this up a little more. Let's just simply create something like this. And we'll do one more inside. And then just press 1 a couple times, right? So we'll just push it in. All right, now if I want to drop this to the other side, right, I can just simply do, let's go ahead and re-Dynamesh, make sure it's nice and clean, mirror this over, mirror and weld. Now I have 2 of them. I'm going to select my mesh, grab my inflate, and I do need to adjust kind of this cavity a little more. You can see that it's interfering with the eye a little. So let's just maybe push this in. And now I just need to start building some of that eyelid, right? And for that, I'm just going to do a quick job using build up, right? Let's just start building this up a little. And he almost has kind of like a human eye looking, so it's not anything unusual. We're just kind of building the basic eyelids here. we can make sure, we can decide how high we want these to be, right? And how do we want them to meet here. It's a cartoon character, so I think we'll just do something as simple as this. Okay, so you have kind of a basic eye, and now we can start really going in and adding more detail, like creases, and just do kind of a final touch-ups, right? So you can see that it's already looking, you know, pretty close, right? Now we just need to add some more details, right? Let's just maybe increase our resolution to 512 at this point. I'm going to double it, and I'm going to redynamesh the base mesh, and it's going to go from 800,000 points to 2.7 million. That's fine. And let's think about this. I don't want to spend too much time detailing, because this is where the real time is, and this is how you go from an average sculpt to an incredible sculpt. I just want to do some super basics, right? Let's not make a 7-hour detailing video, but we could have a little fun. So let's do, let's grab this, I'm going to grab this folding brush. And if you are interested in this, I'll add a link in the description as well. But I'm just going to start kind of using this folding brush, create kind of these folds on the eyes. So let's do something like this. Holding down the Alt key, I can press in, and then I can create just a little character, right? And we can change the size of them. If we wanted to add, you know, something here, let's go ahead and do that. Maybe make this a little sharper, and you can use pinch for this as well, right? And let me press this in, so you can see the eyes just look a little more kind of human-like, a little more realistic, right? I can press this in. Again, I can make this a little sharper. It's very gradual. Okay. And let's see, so you can see a lot of wrinkles up here, and this part here is really built up a lot, right? So for that, let me grab my build up, and let me just build this up a little more. And you can see there's very large, it's like this, right? There's a lot of room here. And the cheek, now on mine, I'm actually not doing this well, because this cheek comes all the way up to here, like all the way up here. That's an important detail. So all of this is just really inflated, right? A lot. Okay. So let's just do the same thing. Let's just inflate all of this here. And I can zoom out a little more and redynamesh. All right, and then this here, so this shape is going nicely into this shape, right? So let's maybe fluff this up a little as well. Create kind of more of a transition here. Keep this line really sharp, and it's almost like pinching up there, right? So it's, let's create something very similar. And now, since this cheek has been built up, now I can really emphasize this brow a lot more as well, right? It's very thick back here. And you can see it kind of goes back as well, right? It goes all the way back here. And it's kind of bubbly, like it's not really perfectly flat. It's kind of uneven a little bit, right? So we could do the same thing. We don't want to forget the nostrils, so I'm going to go to inflate, and let me go ahead and press these in. Okay, grab my build up, and let's go ahead and build these nostrils up just a little more. Or I guess inflate would actually work a little bit better here. And we can also move this up. Gonna redynamesh. I can also grab my Damien standard and come in here and add some more wrinkles. And to break this area up as well, let's just do the same thing, right? Press 1 to really push this in a lot more and start kind of breaking all of this up. All right, for this piece here, let me, if you have any kind of really thick ends on your lines, pinch is a great brush for that. You can really pinch them in and create more of a transition, right, to here. So that's going to be nice. Now, we never took the time to build up some of our hand details, so let's just do some really basic stuff, right? We know that we need a pad here. And we also know that the thumb is gonna have this connection here with the index finger, right? So let's build this up. That's important. And again, this padding is very important, right? Let's build this up. We can also use inflate for this as well. Because we have so much geometry, or at 512 with 2 million points, we can just simply inflate some of these shapes instead of building on them. So I know that all of this, let's give me a little more intensity. All of this right here is important, right? A little too much. You have to find like a happy medium. So something like this is important. And it's not just a bubble, it goes straight. It's like a straight line here, right? So you want to inflate this. So it's creating this inflation. And then there's inflation by the actual pads of the fingers too, right? So something like that. So there's going to create almost like a triangle here, and then same thing here. You want to build just a little, not bones, but some kind of a movement. So you have almost like a indentation there. Just break that, break this shape up too, right? So it looks like there's a connection, and you can see it adds a lot more. It's a little more interesting, right? Here we definitely need to add more folds, right? So let's just make our brush kind of large and just add, let me make this a little stronger. I really just want to add folds there and maybe there. So this is sort of like the shoulder, right? So let's break this up a little more so it doesn't look like a perfect cylinder, right? So we want maybe a large fold here, you know, something like that. So these final details after you put in the large shapes in is what's the most important, right? Because this is the part that is going to start breaking up the shape and make it read well and amazing, right? So this is where all the time should go. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video and you made something really cool. And thank you so much for joining me. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video.